her things, but the house is hers. What was he hiding?
The door creaked open, and the first thing Maya Bennett noticed wasn't the silence. It was the heels. Black, sharp, glossy, positioned neatly by the door like they belonged there. But they didn't. They weren't hers. And in that moment, before she even looked up, before she even stepped inside, something in her chest shifted. Not panic, not yet. Something colder. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Have you ever walked into a place that's supposed to be yours and instantly felt like a stranger? Maya didn't move right away. Her hand stayed on the doorknob. Her overnight bag slid slightly down her shoulder. 2 days. That's all she'd been gone. 2 days helping her mother after a routine surgery. 2 days, and somehow everything felt different. The air smelled wrong. Sweeter, artificial, like someone had tried to overwrite her presence with something floral and unfamiliar. Slowly, she stepped inside. And that's when she saw the boxes. Her boxes, stacked along the hallway wall like she was already gone. Like someone had decided her life could be packed up in labeled cardboard. Clothes. Bathroom. Misk. Misk? Maya's lips pressed together slightly. Not anger. Not yet. Just observation. Because here's the thing, this wasn't chaos. This was planned. Carefully. Deliberately. Which meant one thing. This didn't just happen. Her gaze lifted, and that's when she saw them. Daniel Carter, her husband of 9 years. And standing just slightly behind him, but not uncertain, not awkward, was a woman Maya had never seen before. Lila Monroe, 20-something, polished, composed, and far too comfortable in a house that wasn't hers. Her hand rested lightly on Daniel's arm. Not hesitant. Familiar. Maya's eyes lingered on that detail for just a second, longer than everything else. Because that told her more than anything else in the room. Still, she didn't speak. She didn't yell. She didn't ask a single question. And that was the first thing that made Daniel uneasy. You could see it in the way his posture stiffened, in the way he shifted his weight slightly, like he was bracing for impact that never came. Because he had prepared for a reaction. Just not this one. Finally, he broke the silence. It's her place now. Just like that. No explanation, no apology, no hesitation. A statement. Clean. Final. As if 9 years could be erased with a sentence. Lila smiled. Not cruelly, not dramatically, just confidently, like she believed it, like she'd already stepped into a life that Maya hadn't even been told she was losing. And Maya, she just stood there, looking at them, looking at the boxes, looking at the life that had been quietly rearranged behind her back. And then she said it. Okay. That one word landed harder than anything else in the room, because it didn't match the moment. It didn't match betrayal. It didn't match anger. It didn't match loss. It matched something else. Control. Daniel frowned slightly. Lila's smile flickered just for a second, because suddenly, this wasn't going the way they expected. Maya stepped forward. Not toward them. Past them. Like they weren't even part of the equation. Her shoulder brushed the edge of the couch she had picked out 3 years ago. Her eyes flicked briefly to the framed photos still hanging on the wall. Wedding photos, vacations, holidays. Funny. If this was really over, why were those still there? Why pack her close but leave the memories? Why rush her out but not erase her completely? Unless this wasn't as clean as they wanted it to be. Maya reached the kitchen, and there it was. Her bag. Exactly where she left it. Untouched. Waiting. Behind her, Daniel's voice came again, sharper this time. You heard me, right? Maya turned slowly. Calm. Measured. And for the first time, there was something different in her eyes. Not confusion. Not hurt. Recognition. Like everything had just clicked into place. Yeah, she said softly. I heard you. Then she leaned down, unzipped her bag, and slipped her hand inside. Now both of them were watching closely, because something had changed. The balance in the room shifted. And as Maya's fingers closed around something hidden inside that bag, their confidence started to crack. They thought she came back to fight. They thought she'd cry, scream, maybe even beg. But standing there in that kitchen, one hand inside her bag, Maya Bennett wasn't reacting. She was confirming. Have you ever realized something you suspected for weeks was finally undeniably true? That quiet shift inside you? That's where she was. Not at the beginning of the betrayal. At the end of it, Maya slowly straightened, her hands still inside the bag, but she didn't pull anything out yet. Not immediately. She let the silence stretch just a little longer. Because silence, used right, makes people talk. And right on cue, I think this is better for everyone, Lila said, her voice light, almost rehearsed. Better? That word hung in the air like it had been practiced in a mirror. Maya turned her head slightly, studying her for the first time, not as a surprise, but as a subject, taking in the details. The confidence, the posture, the way she stood in someone else's home, like she had already rewritten its story. Better? Maya repeated softly. Lila nodded, encouraged. No drama, no mess, we're all adults here. Adults. Interesting. Because adults usually don't pack someone else's life into boxes while they're out of town. But Maya didn't say that. She just gave a small nod. Yeah, she said, no drama. And that unsettled them again. Because every word she said felt like agreement, but none of it felt like surrender. Daniel crossed his arms, trying to regain control of something that was slowly slipping. You can take your stuff tonight, he added more firmly now. Tonight. Not, can we talk about this? Not, let's figure something out. Just leave. Maya's eyes flicked toward the boxes again. Her life reduced to cardboard and marker ink. And for a brief second, just a flicker, something passed through her expression. Not sadness, not anger. Something sharper. Recognition. Like a final piece locking into place. Because 2 weeks ago, she had already started preparing for this moment. Flashback woven into present. It started small. A receipt. Folded. Careless. Left in Daniel's jacket pocket. A hotel. 2 guests. One night, Maya remembered holding that piece of paper, staring at it longer than she expected. Not shocked, just quiet. Because deep down, she had already known something was off. The late nights. The phone turned face down. The way conversations started feeling empty. That receipt didn't start the suspicion. It confirmed it, and instead of confronting him, she did something else. She waited. She watched. She started collecting. Back in the present, Maya finally pulled her hands slightly out of the bag, but still not enough for them to see what she was holding. Not yet. Before I go, she said calmly, her voice cutting clean through the tension, there's just one thing. Daniel exhaled sharply, irritation slipping through now. What? One word. Short, defensive. He thought this was the part where she'd negotiate, where she'd ask for time, where she'd break. But Maya, she wasn't negotiating. She was closing. Her fingers tightened around the object inside the bag. Then slowly, she pulled it out. Not all at once. Just enough for the edge to show. Paper. Thick, structured, intentional. And the moment Daniel saw even that small glimpse, his expression changed. Not confusion. Recognition. Immediate. Sharp. And beside him, Lila's smile disappeared completely. Because whatever Maya was holding, it wasn't desperation. It was something they hadn't planned for. And suddenly, they weren't in control anymore. It wasn't a weapon. It was worse. It was paper. Thick, organized, quietly devastating. Maya placed the folder on the kitchen counter with a soft, controlled motion, almost gentle. But the sound it made when it touched the surface, it echoed. Because in that moment, it wasn't just a folder. It was weight. And Daniel felt it instantly. Have you ever seen someone recognize their mistake before they even know how bad it is? That's what this looked like. What is that? Daniel asked, but his voice had already changed. Less confident, less certain, because he knew, or at least he suspected. Maya didn't answer right away. Instead, she flipped the folder open slowly, like she was giving the moment time to breathe. Inside, neatly organized documents, tabs, highlighted sections, precision. This wasn't something thrown together out of emotion. This was built piece by piece while he wasn't paying attention. You packed my clothes, Maya said softly, almost conversationally, so I figured I'd pack a few things too. Her tone didn't rise, didn't shake, and somehow that made it worse. She slid the first document forward. A property deed. Clean, official, unarguable. Daniel leaned in slightly, then froze, because there it was. Highlighted clearly, owner, Maya Bennett. Not joint, not shared. Just her. Lila stepped closer now, her heels clicking against the floor, but there was hesitation in it this time. A crack in the confidence. What does that mean? She asked, glancing between them. Maya finally looked at her directly. It means, she said evenly, this isn't a decision he gets to make. Daniel straightened quickly, defensive again, but it felt forced now. You think paperwork changes anything? He snapped. But notice something. He didn't say it was wrong. He didn't deny it. He challenged it. And that difference? It mattered. Maya didn't react to his tone. She simply turned another page. This time, it wasn't a property document. It was an email. Printed. Dated. 3 days ago. Daniel's jaw tightened. Because now, there was a timeline. And timelines don't lie. I already filed, Maya said. 4 words. Quiet. Final. And suddenly, this wasn't a confrontation. It was a process already in motion. For what? Daniel asked. But now there was something underneath the question. Not anger. Concern. Real concern. Maya didn't answer immediately. She let that question sit in the air. Let it grow heavier. Let it settle into both of them. Because the answer? It wasn't just one thing. It was everything. Behind Daniel, Lila slowly took her hand off his arm. A small movement, but a loud one. Because confidence doesn't survive uncertainty. And right now, everything felt uncertain. Maya reached into the folder again. This time she pulled out a final document. Thicker, stamped. Official in a way that didn't leave room for interpretation. She didn't explain it, didn't summarize it, didn't soften it. She simply turned it face down and slid it across the counter, right in front of Daniel. Read it, she said. Silence. No one moved for a second, not even Lila, because something in Maya's tone made it clear. Whatever was on that page, it wasn't small. Daniel hesitated, just for a moment, but that moment said everything. Because this was the first time since she walked in that he didn't feel in control. Slowly, he reached forward, placed his hand on the paper, and flipped it over. His face changed instantly. Color drained, eyes locked, breath caught, and whatever he just read, it hit harder than anything Maya had said so far. The moment he read it, everything broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, but completely. Daniel's fingers tightened around the paper, the edges crinkling slightly under the pressure. His eyes scanned the page once, then again, like reading it twice might somehow change what it said. It didn't. Have you ever watched someone realize they've already lost? That quiet collapse? That's what this was. What is this? He asked, but this time, the question wasn't aggressive. It was thin. Like something underneath it had already given out. Maya didn't rush to answer. She didn't need to, because the document was doing that for her. Still, she stepped closer, just enough to make sure every word landed. It's everything, she said. Daniel shook his head slightly, like rejecting it without actually understanding it. No, this isn't how this works. But his voice? It lacked conviction. Because deep down, he knew it was exactly how it worked. Lila moved closer again, drawn in despite herself. What does it say? She asked, quieter now. Not confident. Not in control. Just uncertain. Daniel didn't answer her, because saying it out loud would make it real. So Maya did. Divorce filing, she said calmly. Immediate property protection order, financial freeze request, and evidence submission. Each phrase landed like a step downward. Measured, deliberate, final. Daniel looked up at her sharply. You're overreacting. But there it was again. Not denial, just deflection. Maya tilted her head slightly. No, she said. I waited. In that line, that's when it clicked. For both of them, this wasn't something she threw together after walking in and seeing Lila. This wasn't emotional. This wasn't reactive. This was built, layer by layer. While they thought they were getting away with it, you move someone into a house you don't legally own, Maya continued, her voice steady, while using joint funds I've already flagged. Daniel's silence this time? It was loud because there was no argument for that. Lila took a small step back, then another. Her eyes moved between them, but now she wasn't looking at Daniel like a partner. She was looking at him like a liability. You said this was handled, she whispered. Handled? That word hit differently now. Because clearly, it wasn't. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, pacing once tight, restless energy starting to replace his earlier confidence. What do you want? He asked finally. And there it was. The shift. From control to negotiation, Maya met his eyes fully now. No hesitation. No softness. I want you out. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. This house. This moment. This power. It had flipped completely. Daniel let out a short, disbelieving laugh, but it didn't carry. You're serious? Maya didn't answer. She didn't need to. Because everything about her, her posture, her tone, the documents sitting between them, already had. And then a sound cut through the room. Sharp. Unexpected. A knock. All three of them froze. But only one of them wasn't surprised. Maya didn't move. Didn't turn. Didn't react. Because she knew exactly who was on the other side of that door. Daniel looked toward the entrance, confusion flashing across his face. Are you expecting someone? He asked. Maya's eyes stayed on him. Calm. Steady. Certain. Yes, she said. The knock came again. Louder this time. More official. Less patient. And suddenly, whatever control Daniel thought he still had left was about to disappear completely. The knock wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. Because by the time it came the second time, firm, precise, unmistakably official, the energy in the house had already shifted beyond repair. Daniel looked at the door, then back at Maya, then at the papers still in his hand. You could see it happening in real time, the realization that whatever this was, it wasn't over. It was just beginning. Are you going to get that? He asked, but the edge in his voice was gone now. Maya didn't respond. She simply turned, walked past him, steady, unhurried. And for the second time that day, she moved like he wasn't even there. She opened the door. And just like that, everything became official. Standing outside, a uniformed officer, calm, neutral, observant, and beside him, a legal courier holding a sealed envelope. No raised voices. No chaos. Just procedure. Miss Bennett? The courier asked. Maya gave a small nod. That's me. The envelope was handed to her, but she didn't open it. She didn't need to. She already knew what it contained. Because she had set all of this in motion days ago. The officer stepped forward slightly, his presence subtle but firm as he glanced inside. Daniel stepped in quickly, trying to regain ground that no longer existed. This is a misunderstanding, he said, forcing a calm that didn't hold. But the officer didn't respond to tone. He responded to facts. Sir, the officer said evenly, we're here to ensure compliance with a property-related request. Property-related. Neutral words. Heavy meaning. Maya stepped aside, allowing them in. Not inviting. Allowing. This property is solely owned by Miss Bennett, the officer continued, glancing briefly at the documentation Maya handed over. She has the right to request that unauthorized occupants vacate. Unauthorized. That word landed hard, because just minutes ago, Daniel had called it his house. Lila's posture shifted instantly. She looked around the space, really looked this time, at the walls, the furniture, the photos still hanging. And for the first time, it didn't feel like hers, because it never was. Daniel scoffed lightly, but it lacked force. "This is ridiculous. We're married." Maya's voice cut in quiet but precise. "For now." That shut it down. Completely. The officer didn't argue. Didn't escalate. He simply clarified. "There's also a financial review tied to this filing," he added. "We advise cooperation." Financial review. That part hit differently. Because that wasn't just about the house. That was everything else. Daniel's expression shifted again. This time, not anger. Not denial. Calculation. Fast. Desperate. But too late. Lila stepped back fully now, creating physical distance between herself and him. "You didn't tell me any of this," she said, her voice low but sharp. And this time, there was no softness left in it. Daniel didn't answer, because there was nothing left to say that could fix this. Within minutes, the dynamic that walked into that house earlier was gone. Lila grabbed her bag first. No argument. No goodbye to Maya. Just a quiet, swift exit from something that no longer benefited her. Because whatever this was supposed to be, it wasn't worth the fallout. Daniel stayed a moment longer. Long enough to look at Maya one final time. "You planned this," he said. Not accusing. Just realizing. Maya met his gaze. Steady. Unshaken. "I finished it," she replied. And that was the truth. She didn't start the betrayal. She didn't create the situation. She just chose not to be the last one reacting to it. He left. Not dramatically. Not loudly. Just gone. And then silence. Real silence this time. Everything made sense now. Maya had discovered the affair weeks earlier. Instead of confronting Daniel impulsively, she gathered evidence, financial records, communication logs, property verification. She confirmed the house was legally hers, and inheritance, never transferred into joint ownership. She filed for divorce before returning home. She initiated legal protections to prevent financial manipulation. And she timed it perfectly. So when she walked through that door, she wasn't walking into betrayal. She was walking into closure. Maya stood in the center of the living room. Her living room. And for the first time since opening that door, she let herself feel it. Not anger. Not even sadness. Relief. A quiet, steady release of something she had been carrying longer than she realized. Her shoulders lowered slightly. Her breathing slowed. Because it was done. In the weeks that followed, the divorce moved quickly, accelerated by clear evidence and legal preparation. Daniel faced financial penalties due to flagged transactions and misuse of shared accounts. His version of the story unraveled among mutual friends when documentation surfaced. Lila distanced herself completely once the legal and financial complications became clear. Daniel didn't just lose the house. He lost control of the narrative. Maya, on the other hand, kept everything she built. Legally. Practically. Emotionally. A few days later, the house felt different again. Not empty. Restored. The boxes were gone. The Chuzhou perfume had faded. The air felt like hers again. Maya walked slowly through each room, not to reclaim it, but to recognize it. She paused at the front door, the same place where everything had shifted, where she saw the heels, where she heard the words. It's her place now. Maya reached for the door, closed it gently, locked it, then placed the key on the table beside her. Not out of fear, not out of defense, but certainty. Some people think power looks loud, explosive, emotional, but sometimes it looks like walking into your own life, seeing exactly what's been done, and choosing the moment everything ends, and simply saying, okay.
So, was this revenge or survival? And what would you have done differently?